Let's bring in Craig Button now, TSN's Director of Scouting. We've got a ton of things to go through with Craig. Let's get him on the screen. Good morning, Craig. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, I am really good, Rod. Things are 35-degree weather, eh? You're telling me? Oh, boy.
It feels like Texas. Feels like Texas. How did it feel to be back last week?
It was great. You know, I was there for 12 days, and obviously our ties there from your father and myself, and, you know, to see a lot of people and to see how much it's grown, where the tournament was at. It all used to be fields there, Rod. It all used to be fields. I'm like, I said to Doug Armstrong, he was there as well, and we both were talking. Boy, has it ever changed up here? Pastures and fields as far as you could go, cows and horses. I felt like I was in Milestone.
Well, it's a great spot. It actually looks very much like Milestone. Well, Wade Klippenstein, you know Clipper from the Colorado Avalanche, tweeted.
I sure do.
He tweeted, "God bless Texas," that there was crowds at the game. You probably saw Clipper there. Yep. My question to you was your outfits, Craig, were resplendent. I was telling the guys, did you take like 12 outfits and mix and match, or did you go to your favorite dry cleaner? Man, you were fresh, as the football players say down there.
Well, you know, fresh is good, and when you have a face like mine, you want to keep the attention off the face and onto the clothes. Like, you know what? Make sure you got a nice, colorful shirt, ties properly tied. You know, make sure you have a nice poof in your jacket, and away you go. So, I know what I got to do to keep the focus off the face. Hey, it's fun. You know what? It was a lot of fun to be in Texas. For the players, mostly to watch their excitement, Rod. You know, it's been a trying year for everybody. And for the players that had the opportunity to go and compete, it was fantastic. When they won the gold medal and they were parading around that trophy, we were waiting on TSN for that photo shot where they're all around the trophy on the ice. And I just said, I hope those guys take in every second of enjoying that trophy, because what they've gone through in the last year, and then to achieve something so special and unique, you know, savor every minute of it. And they certainly did. I saw a few of the players on the plane ride back to Calgary, Dylan Gunther and Corson Ceulemans. And I mean, they had masks on, but I'll tell you what, that smile went way beyond their mask, all the way up to the ears, I'm telling you.
Well, of course.
Ear to ear.
And I always got so many things I can talk to you about, but I just got to mention Connor Bedard. You said such nice things about him. And you said, that's confidence, not arrogance. Remember when he was going like that out to the backhand? Well, I know you wouldn't have been around him because we're not allowed to be around the players in this COVID situation. But what, as close as you were to him, what kind of vibe did you get from this kid?
Well, we know how good he is, Rod. Like, I mean, it goes without saying. No kidding, Craig. Thanks for that great analysis. Yeah, he's good. He's really good, right? But, you know, he had never played at that level of competition. So you watch players, and most of the players hadn't played at that level of competition. But here's a 15-year-old going into this competition, and he's good enough to be there, no question about it. But to watch him just kind of get his feet wet and then gain that confidence. You know, when he scored that goal against Sweden, when he went to the corner and nodded his head, yeah, here I am, right? I mean, that was built up over time. It didn't just, I think it was him at that moment in time being really comfortable just with his personality and saying, hey, yeah, this is great. But he was building on that. And when you watch a player, any player, you know, like perform at the highest level, a best on best tournament, and perform so brilliantly, and, you know, and that confidence grows. And I always say this, Rod, there comes a time when a player, they go into a tournament like that, and Connor's no different. He goes, I think I can play at that level. Then you start to say, hey, yeah, I'm getting signs to, I really feel that I can play at this level. Then you know you can play at that level. And I think that was the progression I saw with Connor. And, you know, I mean, he wasn't just a player that participated. He was one of the very, very best players in the entire tournament. And, you know, it's interesting because I thought about your dad a number of times during the tournament in this regard. Your dad watched lots of young players over the course of his many years in many, many hockey rinks. And you know how it is. You remember how you always used to hear about the next guy? Oh yeah. Wait till you see this guy. And your dad always used to remind me, he goes, they're all good. They're all good. But the special ones are going to identify themselves. And as good as that player is, and a first-round pick in the WHL or a top midget or a top Bantam, he said, you know what? They're good. But the special ones you'll know right away. And I kept thinking about Connor Bedard. How many times have you heard about, oh, wait till you see this guy? And you saw him, they were good, but they weren't special. And Connor, and it was a great reminder because your dad had such a personal touch with the players and families and the understanding of let's not put unrealistic expectations on the players. And that's something I've always kept in mind, when I describe players. But when it comes to Connor Bedard, it was really obvious how special it was.
Well, I know, but I could take a lesson from the old guy because I pump these guys up. You know how many times I've had coaches and GMs saying, can you tone it down? And I'm like, well, I'm trying to sell tickets here. We saw Bedard. We had him on a Zoom call going into his first game, and Craig, he said he had butterflies. He wanted to puke his first dub game. And then he goes out and buries 2 on Max Paddock in 47 seconds. We're like, yeah. And just as long as we're telling old guys stories, he used to work that Western Prospects development camp, and he called me. He very rarely ever called me on this, but he goes, you got to come down and see this kid. And I said, who? He goes, Sam Steele. And I went and watched, and his team won 8-1, and Sam had 7 goals and an assisted on the 8. And I just can't imagine what my dad would say about Connor Bedard. I cannot imagine.
Oh.
He's watching from the seats in the sky. I can't let you get out of here without a little analysis on David Quinn being let go. Craig, I assume this was just kind of a formality. We were all expecting this, were we not, given what happened in New York last week?
I think that's probably the word that gnaws at you. We were expecting it based on what happened last week. Chris Drury was instrumental in the hiring of David Quinn. And, I think where the New York Rangers found themselves 3 years ago when they sent out the letter and hired David Quinn, I'm not surprised because you see a lot of different scenarios play out. A lot of them eerily similar, where ownership starts to believe that you're further along or you should be further along. And, we see John Davidson, we see Jeff Gorton, now we see David Quinn. Listen, the New York Rangers have an excellent group of young players, and they have a really good prospect pool, and I think they have a promising future. But to suggest now that Alexis Lafreniere and Adam Fox and Capo Caco, Alexis Lafreniere, all these young players are ready to go and perform at the highest levels and help your team compete for a Stanley Cup, it's not only unrealistic, it's problematic. Because the problem is you don't understand the process of maturity. And you can sit here and want to speed it up all you want. The next fast rebuild will be the first one. You can't speed it up, and you can't speed up the maturity of the young players. I think David Quinn's a good coach, but I think that it was inevitable that this was going to happen. And, I think for the New York Rangers and where they're headed, I think Chris Drury's taken over a team that's got a lot of bright young players and has a bright future. But, again, what's the expectation next year? And once you start, I compare it to skiing, Rod. You go up the hill, go up the hill, go up the hill, on the chairlift. And it takes a little bit of time. Now you get to the top of the mountain, you're going, oh, geez, it took some time. It took 10 minutes on the chairlift. Well, now as you start to ski downhill, you're enjoying, but as you get further down the hill and you pick up speed, it takes longer to get back up the hill. Chris Drury better be real careful about identifying where the team is at. Because if you start going down the hill and you start going too quickly, the climb's going to be that much harder. And guess what? That much longer.
Yeah, good, very good analysis, parallel. I think we got 3 minutes, and you know what that means in TV terms. But I just got to say this: our mutual friend Paul Bissonnette said to me he thinks an NHL rebuild should take 5 years, and I think he was just selling for the Coyotes because it's been longer than 5. What's a realistic time frame for an NHL rebuild? Do you think, Craig, from absolute dumpster fire to being a respectable team?
Well, so what I would say is, again, if you start right from the bottom, right, and you're going to be picking players high, right, and promising players, right, and so now you're drafting 18-year-olds. Well, if you expect that they're going to just step in and lead you out of the basement, it's unrealistic. They need to learn. They need to grow. They need to be surrounded. Rod. I joined the Dallas Stars, the Minnesota North Stars in 1988. Mike Modano had been the first overall pick. It was 11 years later when we won the Stanley Cup. When did we become competitive? We went to the Stanley Cup final in 1991. It was a magical mystery tour. It's magical because you always go to the Stanley Cup final, but it's a mystery is how we got there. And then we ended up moving, and it was really 1996, 97 that our team was able to really push to the next level. There was a lot of factors that went into that. The ownership. Where was there an ability to invest in your team? The players' maturity. Acquiring players. I call it the intersection. And you got to sync it all up. And it's easy to acquire picks. It's easy to acquire younger players. It's easier but you got to sync it. The young players have to be ready to contribute. They have to have the guidance of the older players. The older players still have to be able to contribute in a big way, but it can't just fall on their shoulders. And the syncing up of it is the key. And I think it's 5 years. One of the big mistakes I made when I came to Calgary, and it was as general manager, I was ready to take a 3-year contract because I felt like, okay, we'll have the opportunity to build it. But I was doing the things that needed to be done, but they were impatient in ownership. So after 3 years, I was out. But all the things that I was doing got that team to the Stanley Cup final the next year, and then built. And it takes time. I was naive because I should have said, I'm only coming there on a 5-year deal. I believed, okay, 3 years, we'll show enough sign, they'll be patient with me. Wrong, Craig. They weren't patient.
Well, Biz was right then with his 5 years. There should be minimum 5.
Yes, he is. I agree with him.
And here's another one. Last one. When we met, which I think was 1990, you were living in East Lansing. I told you, I thought you were an American guy.
Ann Arbor. Hang on a second here.
Football guys, sorry.
Big
Not Michigan
difference.
State, Michigan. Yeah, well, to people there it's huge. But I thought you were American with your dad and everything. And then I find out from our mutual friend Bob Maria that you're a Montreal guy. So how much heat did you take for saying they might not win a game? Because I watch it every day. I tell you that. What did you get heat over that?
Well, a good friend. Get heat. I mean, a lot of my friends said I have now become the face on their dartboard. Family, friends, I'm the face on the dartboard now. They're trying to hit the bullseye. But it's funny. When you make that comment, but it's what I believe. I'm not here to try to bury teams or anything, but Toronto just beat Montreal 3 straight games. And Montreal, might have had a leg in some of the games, but not all of them. In 1979, the last time these two teams met in the playoffs, it was a 4-game sweep. Montreal was superior to the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Toronto Maple Leafs right now are superior to the Montreal Canadiens. So, you know what? We'll see if they win a game, fine. Maybe they'll win 2. But at the end of the day, I see no chance for them to win 4. And quite frankly, I think they'll be lucky to win 1.
He's digging in. Craig, I watch you every day. I really enjoy it. Please keep it up, and thanks for this. I always enjoy these visits.
Do you know what, Rod? I do too. And you know what? I think what we got to do is just visit more regularly. And it doesn't always have to be on your show, but just catch up and talk.
Yeah, let's do it.
I always enjoy the chats.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Craig. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks, Rod.
TSN's Director of Scouting, Craig Button.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.